everybody. Welcome to the Art of Living Well with Live Hill podcast. Today, I am joined by my guest, Denelle Davis. Denelle is a client of mine within our coaching company and has done an absolutely tremendous job, and she's going to share her story with us today. So, welcome to the podcast, Denelle.
Hello.
Hello. All right, we're going to jump right in and get started. So, as we jump into this, you have been a client within our coaching for a while and have had a ton of success.
Yes, it's been right over a year.
Yeah, a wonderful year. We've had a really good time together.
Yes, growing and learning a lot.
Oh, yes, a lot. So let's kind of start out with what brought you into coaching and what started your coaching journey.
So really, I was looking for something that I could feel better. I just really hadn't felt good. I had a toddler at the time too. And so I just wanted to feel better. And dieting for me just was never the answer. It was so much restriction. And I think like mental overload of, going here, this restaurant, what can I eat at this restaurant? Or what can I, and it was just so much restriction and mental overload. It was just not working ever. I mean, I want to good for a week if I'm like staying in my house. But,
if I don't leave the house for a week, I got this nutrition thing on lockdown.
Yeah. But that's not life
at
all. And so I was just like, there has to be a better way. And I could find myself easily more so leaning towards the low carb keto kind of aspect. Mm-hmm. But it always had me in a hookup of, I can't have a baked potato, it's a vegetable. But they say it's a carb. So I would always hit these hangups because I was like, I don't understand. Like, it's a vegetable, Yeah. So I don't even know how I found Liv. Probably a God thing, right?
Absolutely a God thing. Absolutely.
And so I found Liv, and I just kept kind of looking at some things, reading what she was posting, and I was like, I'm just calling. Just doing it.
And we hit it right off, and that was so fun. So you also, just to talk about how busy you are or what your life is like and why dieting was stressful, when you were dieting, you were way under eating, and that was causing you to be tired. And that's what everybody does when they start a diet. They just go all in, Mm-hmm. But you've got 3 children.
Yes.
Keeping you busy.
Yes. Yeah. 12, 8, and 4.
12, 8, and 4, and you run a business. Your husband runs a business. You guys run a business together.
Yes.
And then you also have kind of like a side gig of things that you're doing as well, right?
Yes.
So you need all the energy.
Yes.
Yep, you need all the energy. So when you started, we kind of just started in on that. Let's look at losing weight. Let's look at getting energy up. Let's just take a look at what we're starting with, right?
Right.
And I think it was 3 weeks in, and you were getting ready to go on a cruise. Is that right?
Yeah. Which before that would have seemed like daunting in the fact of either I'm just going to call it a cruise and eat everything that's brought before me, or I text Liv and I'm like, hey, this is the menu for dinner. And so we went over that and then got a game plan for things to help me target breakfast, things for targeting lunch, and my dinner options, what, was the best, 1, 2, 3 kind of thing.
Yep, I remember.
And I had dessert every night, and I didn't gain 1 pound. Did not gain 1 pound. I actually came back from the cruise a couple pounds down than what I had even went on the cruise. So at that moment was like, you know what? I can really do this. I went, I had fun. I enjoyed myself immensely. We had a great time. But I know people are like, there's, 24-hour food on the cruise. You just can eat. I never felt like I just wanted to eat, but I never felt deprived either.
Yeah. I think that was the first light bulb moment. And we were in our first month together. And so you were like, okay, you started before you went on the cruise, so you knew it was coming. So it wasn't like you waited until after the cruise to start. And then you just said, you know what, let's just give this my best effort on the cruise under this new lifestyle, which was totally a new lifestyle.
Yes.
And yeah, and we just walked through everything together. I remember just getting screenshots of menus, and we're like writing things down and figuring it out. But that to me was like the biggest start of the building block of your foundations. Because I wasn't saying, eat this, eat that. I wasn't meal planning for you, but we were collaborating. You were saying, well, I feel like this might be a better option. And from that point on, I feel like that started opening the door. You went on the cruise, you had fun, came back, scale was down lighter, and you were like, wait a minute, there's something, this is life.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I didn't feel, bad. Like I felt good the whole cruise. I didn't feel like I overate and just felt terrible. It was just a really good experience, again, of that like light bulb moment that, it's these small steps, right? I mean, I didn't get to where I was overnight. And so it was a light bulb moment of small, start to put pieces together, like I probably had 1,000-piece puzzle that I needed to put together, right?
That's a good analogy.
The bigger the puzzle, the smaller the pieces, right? So, I mean, they've been small pieces, but it's been putting together the picture very clearly.
Yeah, very, very clearly. So we came out of the gate strong, like running really strong, and then you came back, and when we came back, there was a time there in coaching where you and I had to have some like really growth moments is what we'll call them, right? And I mean, that happens, but you were so open-minded to being coachable, so what you were saying, and you wanted to learn. It wasn't even just being coachable. You were hungry to learn it. Mm-hmm. And we had to just talk about, if you want to explain what your meals were like when you were cooking family dinners, a year ago. And like you said, this is the way that you'd been brought up, and we're not guilting, shaming. There's no need for that. I mean, you were doing what you had been taught. But we really, if you want to go into what your meals look like previous and how we slowly put those pieces together to unravel those just a little bit.
Well, it was no breakfast.
Yeah.
Like,
no breakfast.
None.
Coffee.
Maybe like start out with coffee for the day, like black iced coffee, but maybe not even do that. Then lunch would be anything fast and easy, typically. And then dinner's a lot of cream ofs, just cream ups, that's
cream ups.
but just like comfort food type scenarios that I felt like even putting in, having a side of green beans, like I was balancing it out, but really like going back and dissecting everything I was putting in so much more like fatty things that didn't need to be there to make it taste good. And so learning to kind of dissect those meals and say, I can still make, this broccoli, rice, and chicken without the cream of, and I know there's healthier options. You can make the cream ofs, on their own. But I mean, I use chicken broth, fruit and veggies, I put in a little bit of butter, it was just in very small proportion to the comparison of a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when so you're like, okay, I'm cooking cream of, and then you kind of got overwhelmed with like, how am I going to totally change this? Because in your mind, it was like, okay, I've got to totally change this cream of. What am I going to do? And so for just like a hot minute, you kind of went down this path of like complex TikTok, Pinterest, deep in the weeds meals. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
And you were like, I'm dying.
Yeah, like I'll use like looking at trying to build a Pinterest board of all of these like very macro type friendly meals, and I'm like, okay, like this is not anything like I'm used to putting together for dinner. Yeah. But now, like in my crock pot is chicken, rice from the freezer, like I had portioned out already, and a bag of the broccoli mix from Aldi's.
The broccoli and cheese mix.
Yeah, the broccoli and cheese mix. That's in my crock pot for dinner tonight, right now.
Yeah. And it works.
And it works.
Yeah. I think on every podcast, this is this should just be the signature of our group is like, and you know this from our Facebook group, and it's like the less that we have to put hands on in cooking, the better it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's almost like a running joke, like who can find the most quality foods with the least amount of cooking time, wins.
Yes. Well, and like you had said, I would say I've gone out to eat and we went out for, Mexican for lunch and, I got the chicken fajita salad. And you had made the comment one time, if your food is glistening, it's because it's got a lot of oil on it. And I thought, man, like here I thought I was really doing myself like this incredible, like, I got this. I could go out to eat Mexican and have this, the chicken fajita salad all the time. And then I started thinking about it. I was probably like, it's probably not a healthy oil either, right? So, I mean, those kind of moments, just, again, it's just balancing the lifestyle. It's balancing your eating habits. So if I want that, if we're going to go to Mexican and I get that chicken fajita salad, then the rest of the day I'm going to be mindful.
Yes.
And not like restrictive mindful.
Right.
Like you're just going to have not one other carb for the rest of the day. Like, okay, have a baked potato and a piece of baked or grilled chicken from home. You know what I'm saying? Right. But it's just being mindful. Once you maybe have that meal that's kind of like, oh, that's kind of like, it was healthy. It was a healthier option there, but it wasn't the best. And you can just know how to go about the rest of your day.
The rest of the day. That is so important because we're never going to not go out to eat, especially in ministry. If you've got, and I know you're very active in your church, you lead the choir in your church, you do Spanish ministry, right? So,
well, I've been to the Spanish service once. I would like to go more, but just right now with our kids, it's kind of, we're trying to finagle all of those things out,
So, yeah. But you do direct the choir, the youth choir, is that right? Yeah. And so, we're going to have people, we want to, like you said in the very beginning of this podcast, like if I stay home for a week, I can make it happen, but we've got to figure out how to make it happen when we're not at home.
Yes.
And so having that balance, because we're going to go out to eat, we're going to go to birthday parties, we're going to have, I know your church has, things after church sometimes, parties. You want to be there and you want to participate in that, but it's having the knowledge to balance out the rest of the day.
Yes.
To say, okay, I'm going to enjoy this, and then the rest of the day, I also am not going to live in guilt and shame. I'm going to, balance out the rest of the day. So if you want to talk a little bit about how you've been able to do that, because I think you've done a remarkable job of finding that and hitting that balance.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes I feel like it's like a oops week, like it's just, you're like, where did the week go, and you're just trying to play catch up. But I really try to just give myself grace. Because, again, I didn't get to this, like, all or nothing diet mentality overnight. So the whole shift to eat free, and when we say free, we don't mean, like, the whole bag of chips and the whole thing of donuts. Like, eating free as in, like, you know what you're eating. There's no guilt in what you're eating. And so, when I have the cupcake at the birthday party or I have the piece of dessert, I'm not feeling guilty because that's not what I'm doing on the everyday basis. It's not Thanksgiving every day. It's not Christmas every day. It's pretty much simple meals. And again, simple meals doesn't sound glamorous or Pinteresty or all of those things, but it does check all of the boxes. And my kids don't know if it looks like a Pinterest put together gourmet meal. They know that it tastes good and it feeds them. And so at the end of the day, really, where all of that like parameter comes in is like from me saying, is it in this parameter? It's not my family. And so all of that's kind of trickled down to them too, because I'm just more aware of what they're eating. And when they're eating it, like coming home from school, okay, you don't need to sit down and have all of this, or why don't you switch that out for this? And I'm not like always trying to be a stickler on them and be like, you have to eat this, but I'm trying to like give them the better option. Like, if you have this, then have this too. Or you've had already this, so why don't you have this or that? So it's just, again, very much to opening yourself up to all the options that are there and making it work within those parameters.
Yeah, and you're teaching your kids swaps, how to make swaps. And I line this up too. Like, we can't go to Target and buy a toy every single day. Every time we go.
Right.
Like we would, and for you and I, like I can't go buy a dress every time I go to Target. I wish I could, but I can't.
Right.
And so it's just learning how sometimes you have the dress, sometimes you don't. And the same things with your kids. Like, sometimes we make swaps. Sometimes we go to Target and we just get cleaning supplies, and sometimes you get a toy. It's just balancing those things out. But there's such a stigma when we do that with food. And so being able to just give your kids swaps. And I love what you said too about the only person that knows what you're putting on your serving at your dinner table is your family. And that should be your first priority anyway, not social media and Pinterest, right?
Right. Right. And I mean, you know how I feel about that. It's,
Yes.
there's a lot of editing that goes in with that. And so, I mean, I'm just who I am, whether it's cooking in the kitchen or here on this podcast. I told Liv that she should know that I'm very grateful for her, because this is completely out of my comfort.
You've gotten good at stepping out of your comfort zone, though. You've gotten good.
But
So,
it's just
but your kids,
continual learning. Continual learning.
continual learning. And we'll talk about one part of your learning with protein shakes. Because so I'm like, okay, Denelle, we need to up your protein, because protein is what we all need. We need to eat between 0.8 and 1 gram of protein per ideal pound of body weight. And so in the beginning, the easiest way to do that is through protein shakes. And so I'm like, Denelle, let's try some protein shakes. Let's try to up that protein, because I think when you started, you were probably eating about 50 grams of protein a day, and we were upping you to around 100 to 110 grams.
Yeah. And the protein shakes are the nastiest things. I have tried how many variations, and they always end in a text to Liv of, "This is so disgusting. How do you eat it?" No, I couldn't even feed it to my chickens. Like, I just couldn't even do that. No.
So you guys get this. It wasn't extreme at all with her.
No.
So I think we've tried every protein shake that I'm like, I'm over here researching, digging in deep. Go to this store, go to that store, try this one, try that one, sample this.
And so I finally texted Liv and said, "No more protein shakes. I'll drink my Fairlife fat-free milk in like bulk form, but I am not having another protein shake."
So she was out on protein. But this, again, is where it gets individualized. There's not protein in that, by the way, that she's drinking. But
I do have collagen. It's my coffee.
Collagen. We got the collagen in there.
And my powdered bone broth.
There we go. So that works.
I have a little bit of protein in there.
A little bit. But this is where it comes down to being individualized too, is that could have been a point to where, I think other like macro plans, right, would have said, well, I don't know what to tell you, but we didn't stress about it. We tried a couple of times. It wasn't what worked for you. And so we've been able to find ways for you to get your protein in an enjoyable way. And I think that's the whole part of everything you've done has been, we learn a little bit. We might back up and punt. We learn a little bit. But at the end of the day, it has to be something that you enjoy doing and that you see a result from what you're doing.
Yes. And that's like, I mean, I still have that protein powder. I'll put it in when I'm baking, because I'm like, okay, it's this big jug of protein powder that I feel terrible for anybody who relies on that to get their protein in. Like, I have to think that they know that there has to be a better way to get their protein in. But, so I'll still like throw it into like pancakes or waffle mix, or even like, just doing something like that, even into like banana bread or something like that, because again, I'm throwing it in there. It's not going to waste. I don't know that it's in there. Hallelujah. And
so dramatic. Yeah. I love it.
But so there has been those like moments where I'm like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm going to get past it. And then you can find that substitute, that swap for yourself that just makes morning easy. So now I just get up and I have a big glass of Fairlife milk. And I've got a mason jar that I know exactly the ounces that I need to get the certain
Yeah.
amount of protein. And again, and it's not about saying I can't have this and I can't have that.
Yeah.
It's just about keeping it real and balanced. And, you know, we want to do that with almost everything in our life. You know, you put too much in the washer, it's going to get out of balance and it won't spin.
There
You
you
do
go.
the same thing with eating food. You know, like you put so much restriction on it and then you're just like, you just freeze and you're like, I can't do it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And then for me, it's like, I restricted myself for 2 weeks and done really good. I'm going to splurge the whole weekend and completely bust everything I did for 14 days, you know?
Yeah.
And so, again, that was why dieting never worked and never will work for me.
No,
Because
and you're seeing amazing results, like with the way your body shape has changed, losing a ton of inches. And there's never been since we've been working together, there's never been a week that you've not shown up. There's never been a week where you've said, you know, I'm out, I can't do this is too hard. That's never, because it's enjoyable and you're seeing results in changing your mindset, your body is changing, but it's doing away with that diet mentality and just leaning into balance and sustainability.
and even in balance in like movement,
Yeah.
you know, like, I mean, where my steps were when we started, like, that was kind of embarrassing. Like, let's just be real. I was like, I don't have any more steps than this. Like, what? Like, I feel like I'm moving all the time as a mom.
Yeah.
But, and now, because I've been striving to have my steps at a certain number, that I already have like 2.5 times doubled what my normal steps would be on the daily. So it's just things like that. And learning how to, if the gym is not an option for you, there is, get yourself a peddler. Like, get yourself a
Talk about your peddler, because that's been another secret.
I love my peddler. And that's been the game changer for me to really get my steps in, get some good exercise, and then because I can still be engaged with my kids. They come and I'll pedal and they'll sit beside me, do their reading homework, play Uno, all of these things, and I'm still being able to, again, balance my life.
Yeah. So a peddler is the little bicycle. It's just the feet, and you just pedal on your feet. So you're sitting on the couch or wherever. You're interacting with your kids. That counts as steps. You're not over there like Richard Simmons, like pedaling. Right. You know, you're just pedaling and talking. And so that you were finding that when you were trying to get natural steps, just walking, that was taking time away from what you wanted to do because you had other things to do during the day that you weren't getting steps in. So just spending 30 minutes to 45 minutes at night getting steps in wasn't working for you with the kids.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like, if you want to say, okay, I'm stopping everything, but at this season of life, that just, I can't stop everything, right? And so that's just become a really big game changer. And again, it doesn't have to be like you're working out and sweating to be making something count. You know, like if we've got 10 minutes and I'm in my church clothes, or I come home from Sunday afternoon and I'm in my church clothes, I can sit on my couch and pedal. It's really okay. Yeah. It's really okay. And it really does make a difference.
Makes a huge difference.
So it's just been a good, complete, like, thought transformation as to hard isn't always better. It's just the simple things really do make a difference. They really do.
Yeah, that's perfect. Hard is not always better. Hard is actually worse. I mean, it makes it so much more difficult to adhere to. One thing you've noticed too is that you've noticed that different events, not necessarily, you've been in very different environments where people, you're picking up on how much they're talking about dissecting what they're eating and their emotions around what they're eating and the guilt around that. And that has been one of those things that's reminded you that what you're doing is pushing you in a positive direction, because those conversations are starting to seem more foreign to you.
Yes. And I think too, because instead of like making a celebratory moment guilt-ridden because most celebrations evolve around food. Let's just be
Right.
real. So
Yeah.
instead of like saying in the back of my head, like just beating myself up over the fact that there's party food there or cupcakes there that's so good from this bakery, those kind of things, the guilt is gone from those moments. Like I'm
Yeah.
able to literally enjoy and celebrate and not have this like, oh, I wish I would have. Or for the next 3 days, it's like water, you know.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
none of that. There's none of that. It's
Yeah.
just, okay, we're going to celebrate and then we're moving on.
Yeah. We celebrate, we move on. And you made a comment, I think it was on your last check-in, something along the lines of, I don't want to correct me, it was something along the lines of, I want to remember the celebration. I don't want to remember the guilt from the celebration.
Yes. Yes. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, it takes that moment. I mean, there's obviously a moment worth celebrating. Like
Yeah.
that's why you're, you're there.
Yeah.
And so instead of like not enjoying that moment, not enjoying that, that party, that whatever celebration is, instead of just like logging out, like I'm going to check out of the celebration because I'm not going to enjoy it anyways. No, I want to be able to like be there and enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've done such a great job at that. And recognizing that there's a lot of conversation and dialogue about other people having guilt. And that's just, you need to learn and grow and, working on that as well. And you're being a great example to them, but starting to pick up on how much, me back in the day, you back in the day would have those conversations about guilt around food and things like that.
Yes. And I mean, honestly, like I had text Liv a screenshot, a headshot from almost 2 years ago going on. And compared to today is like a completely different headshot. It's pretty incredible. And so again, it's not, and I didn't start out necessarily to like have an image of weight loss because I don't want like necessarily people to come up to me and be like, what are you doing? Like, I'm going to go to this birthday party and I'm going to eat, what I mean? Because I've learned, all of these other steps that really make the big difference. And the eating, the movement. And for me, a big deal was getting my blood panel.
Yeah.
Because that was a huge deal in finding out that my body was not absorbing the nutrients. And so we had to do some, extra vitamins and extra things like that. And it's been a huge game changer for me.
Yeah.
And all of that.
Yeah. So we pulled your labs. So I am a functional nutritionist, so we can look at lab work. So we pulled your labs. You were just really tired. You were just really wiped out a lot, not sleeping well. And we pulled those labs and it showed us, hey, body's not getting what it needs. So we got in there, kind of turned that around, and now energy's way high. And you can tell too. You can tell now, which we'll finish that. So, we got the energy higher, sleep is better. And so now you've been able to tune in more to your body and see these things. So we had this happen, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago, and you're like, I'm taking naps during the day. And you're like, that's unusual. I'm not a napper. And so you were able to like self-correct some things that you had pulled in unknowingly. So I'll let you talk about that just a little bit, however deep you want to get into that. But learning to listen to your body and respond so quickly and turn it around that was so cool a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. And it was just as simple as my unsweet peach tea.
Yeah.
And in that, I was lowering my water intake because I'm not a huge drinker anyway. So I have had to push myself to get that typically 120 ounces of water. Well, I was, depleting that water by a good 30 ounces because I was replacing it with a peach tea, not even thinking about it. And so when I got to again, going back, I could literally pinpoint it. And so the last 7 days that I'm like, okay, wait, I think that's that area. I felt fine all week. It's great.
And that to me is priceless because I mean, it wasn't like you were pulling in a bad food. I mean, even though that term's overused, but it was just unsweet peach tea. And for whatever reason, your body was like, I said no, and you were just lethargic, take a nap. I mean, it was making you take a nap in the middle of the day. Who would have ever thought that? But because you've changed your lifestyle so much, because you're so in tune with your body and how it feels, it didn't take but a second for you to just rewind, pinpoint, pull it out. Bravo. Feeling better. That easy.
It's been really crazy, like, because you're just like, even like one small thing makes a difference. That same concept is in, weight loss and nutrition. One small step forward will make a difference because
Absolutely.
it just keeps going.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what we're building on right now is strength training. Woo! You feeling it?
Yeah.
And so you've done so good, Denelle, about just like layering in things. So we started with, cream ups. We started with water. Like we've taken these steps, and now, moving away from cardio exercises into more to strength training exercises. And you've already just, with the limited time you've been getting into that, even seeing more body changes starting to happen.
And I feel better. It's really crazy. I do enjoy it. And again, it's not, sometimes I don't have 30 minutes to give to it. Maybe it's a 5-minute deal, but that was 5 minutes more than I did a year ago. That was, and so I haven't made it this all or nothing mentality at all.
Right.
And I feel like that's where we hit the speed bump because, it's all or nothing for 30 days and I've lost 10 to 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And then what happens the other 11 months out of the year?
Yeah.
So I've just tried to really make it tangible for me. And even though it's not as dedicated as Liv's right now, but I'm just trying to make it tangible for me in the season that I'm in, giving myself grace. And it's made a huge difference. Like every layer, every step that I, put up, it's making a big difference.
A huge difference. And you're starting out at 5 minutes, but I don't think since January has started, which that's when we really got into more strength training was in January. I don't think that you've missed a week. There's not been a week that you've put up a 0 on the board with strength.
No. And some weeks it's been 15 minutes, some weeks it's been 20 minutes, some weeks there's been almost an hour.
Right.
Yeah. But again, I've not ever said no. Like I don't have 5 minutes. And so you feel good that you feel good. And it's just like kind of, okay, again, you're stepping out of the box. Like I'm stepping out of the box today.
Yes.
But it makes you feel good that you can know that, hey, I did that. And you did it for yourself. Because if you're a mom or whatever, you're not just showing up for yourself. You're showing up for your whole family who's hoping you show up, and depending on you to show up. So it's just a good feeling of continual learning, continual growth. Poor Liv, because I'll text her and be like, hey, what about this? Because I'm pretty sure this, and this. And she's like, okay, we can talk about this. Because I can really see myself like diving into nutrition, like as a whole, but it's been a fun learning process with loads of benefits. Yeah.
So fun. And that's the thing is like, the more that you stay with it, the more that you're like, find a love for it. And there's a difference between a love for it and an obsession with it. And I think it goes back to the all or nothing mindset, because when you're enjoying what you're learning and you're seeing results and benefits and feeling good and those kind of things, it's like, oh, I want more of this. Versus an obsession is like, that's the only thing you can think about. That's all that your mind is wrapped around. And that's when that obsession with health can become unhealthy.
Yeah.
So
finding
the small.
It's finding that balance.
Finding that balance. And you mentioned like your kids. So you work out at home exclusively. So the stuff that we're doing, you're doing at the house, which I am there's some people that work out at home and some people that are like, get me out of this house so that I can work out. So again, it's so flexible for whatever your needs are. But, you're doing it like in your living room, in the bedroom, sometimes in your church clothes, right? Like we're not making, and I think being able to see that that's doable as well. Like it doesn't have to be a suit up, full experience to get the benefits.
Yeah. And even like normally, like my little girl, especially, like she'll come in and she wants to mimic. So I've gotten her like this little 1 pound weight because she wants to like.
Yeah.
But if I leave, my stuff out, then the boys are coming in and they're like, "Now, what were you doing, Mom?" Like
Yeah.
just but again, it is funny because sometimes my older son, he'll be like, "I can't wait till Mimi comes because she's gonna bring me all the snacks." And it's not that I don't buy snacks anymore. That's not the deal at all. It's
Yeah.
just that when Mimi comes and Mimi brings it, eat your heart out. And me, I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, you've already had this. Put it away."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Just
yeah,
teaching them balance. And that's okay.
yeah,
Some people say, well, that's disordered. I don't think it is disordered at all. I think it's teaching them just as we teach them other things, just mimicking good habits that we want them to pick up and follow along with.
exactly.
Well, you're
Definitely.
doing so good, Denelle. You're going to be like,
Thank you.
by Christmas, you're going to have some guns. We're going to get more strength training in.
We can
But
do strength training.
no protein shakes. No
No.
protein shakes. Well, as we wrap this up, anything that you would want to say to anybody that's considering coaching or that is living in a diet mindset or just wants to get healthier, anything that you would want to share with anybody as some last thoughts?
Call Liv. Just call Liv. And just like be open-minded to hear the why, or I guess the how. We're asking why. And just be open-minded to listening to the how. Yeah, you can have the baked potato. It's really going to be fine, coupled with your protein.
Yeah.
All of these things, just, I guess, be open-minded to giving yourself up from restriction
Yeah.
and open to, well, what does this food have to offer me? And if I eat it in this balanced lifestyle, what can it do for me? And
Yeah.
it's really eye-opening.
So eye-opening. So life-changing.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Most
you're
definitely.
changing it so early in life. Your kids are going to reap the benefits of this. You've got so much life left to live and you're not going to live in that restriction anymore. And that's such a freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Well, thank you so much for joining today. I will put this on our podcast episode so everybody can watch and listen. So thanks again for joining, and we will talk with you guys soon.
All right. See you.
See ya.